And we're back with the live stream with Assemblyman Keith Wright, the chair of the New York State Democratic Party, chair of the Housing Committee, moved up our power list this year. Assemblyman, what does power mean to you?
Power means nothing unless you can do something with it to help the people that you represent. And that's really what power means to me.
Hey, and I was talking with Senator Klein about power, and I heard earlier this year that after you guys got the budget done, that everyone's going to take off on vacation or campaigning or something. Is there still a will in Albany to get things done this session?
I hope so, and that's why I'm in this business. You know, we have a lot of good, committed public servants that run for these offices, and you run for these offices, and you get elected to these offices. And, you know, your job is public service. We are public servants, and we serve the public. And certainly, I've tried to take this job very, seriously. And we have to help those people that basically cannot help themselves. And that's what I've tried to do. And I think there is a will. Otherwise, why the hell would you get into this business if you don't have the will? You're not going into it to get the aggravation. You're not going in because you're not going to get rich. But you want to serve the public, and there's a true commitment to public service, and that's why I'm in.
But it seems like in an election year in particular, the status quo can be advantageous for some of your colleagues, right? Because if you pass legislation, there will always be someone whose ox is gored. And so, that sometimes it's easier to check out and not get things done.
Well, the status quo has never been an option for me. And I would say for the most part, status quo is not something that any of the folks that I try and serve with, at least the people that I associate myself with, is not something that they aspire to. So, we really want to get some things done, and hopefully we can.
And so what are your foremost goals for the remainder of the session? What would you really like to see passed?
Well, as chair of the Housing Committee, and I've been chair of the Labor Committee. When I was chair of the Labor Committee, I was really interested in raising the minimum wage, and we were able to do that. I've been chair of the Social Services Committee, and one of the things that I was really interested in doing then was to make sure that we could raise the public assistance grant, because it hadn't been raised in over 20 years. And so as housing chair, certainly I'm looking forward to making sure that some kind of way, we've started the tenant protection unit. We certainly we were able to get a renter's tax abatement, and I'm looking forward to basically trying to get some help to those neighborhoods, especially in New York City, folks in New York City housing authority developments that have been suffering for so long with no federal, state, or city infusion of capital to help them get some relief, and to look forward to keeping building some low and moderate income buildings so that we can stabilize our neighborhoods. Not everywhere, because things have been built. We've gone condo crazy in our neighborhoods, and certainly we have to preserve our neighborhoods, because the only thing that really makes a neighborhood is an economic mixture. You can't just have housing for the rich. You have to have housing for those folks that are of middle income. You have to have housing for those folks that are of low income as well. So that's something that I'm trying to get done.
And I've heard you write about that, and you're talking about how you were such a beneficiary of an economically diverse neighborhood.
Oh, no question. I actually live in the same rent-stabilized apartment that I grew up in. And Harlem, back in the 1950s and the 1960s, was an economically diverse neighborhood. You could live next door to someone who had some money, and certainly the person next door was either a teacher or a lawyer or a fire person or a police officer, and then you can be living next door to somebody on public assistance. It made for a great, fabulous neighborhood, and it was a neighborhood that looked out for each other, and that's why I still live there today. And I had the greatest childhood in the world, and certainly an economically diverse neighborhood really stabilizes a neighborhood.
And I'm 36 years old. My parents had rent-controlled apartment in New York City. They were the beneficiaries of exactly that type of existence that you were talking about. But that doesn't seem to be afforded to people who are my age and younger. Is that an opportunity that belongs to a previous incarnation of the city? Can we recreate that type of environment now that you prospered and that you benefited from?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do as chair of the Housing Committee, in order to help preserve, rent stabilization, preserve rent control, so that our children can come back to the city of New York. You know, what's going on is that we have our natural evolution of those folks that are in our retirees, those folks that have retired as bus drivers, those folks that have retired as teachers, and then they migrate down south into other neighborhoods. But we have to make it so that our neighborhoods are I guess, palatable and acceptable to those younger folks in your generation that are looking to start families and looking to migrate to neighborhoods where they can afford to live. Certainly, Manhattan is one of the most expensive places to live, but wherever you live, you have to make sure that you can afford it. In the old days, my grandmother used to tell me that you should never pay more than 1/3 of your income for rent. Now, people are paying half their income in rent. Some people are paying 3/4. So it's become very, very expensive for housing alone.
And what are your goals now that Mayor Minor has stepped down as your co-chair of the Democratic Party? How is that going to change your job as the chair? And what are your goals for the rest of this year?
Well, Mayor Stephanie Minor is someone, I have a new best friend. She was a fabulous partner in terms of trying to steer the New York State Democratic Party. She certainly, wore a lot of hats, just like I wear a lot of hats. And let's not forget, she's an executive of a major upstate city. So certainly, and that's her first job, first and foremost. So my role now won't be anything different. Stephanie Minor and I talk all the time. And so my role won't be any different. We have our big state convention coming up in May, and looking forward to nominating our governor for a massive re-election, and it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm excited about it, and we have to make sure that the people are excited and work hard for our governor, Andrew Cuomo, to make sure he rolls on to victory in decisive numbers.
And of course, holding on to the 3 statewide offices, I'm sure, is your paramount concern.
Oh, Lord, yes.
How high up on the list for you is flipping the state Senate?
Oh, the state Senate's very important. It's very important. Certainly, we need to, and as you talked about before, we need to make sure that we can get things done. And we don't need folks that are obstructionists. And certainly, we know that some of our Republican friends have been kind of obstructionists. So it's important that we do get a majority in the New York State Senate.
And obviously, in your backyard, there's a very heated congressional race right now. How involved are you going to be in fighting for Congressman Rangel's re-election?
Well, I'm very involved. Listen, this is, this is where I started. He made me politically in many ways. You have to remember that my father gave Congressman Rangel his first job when he was in law school. So this is a guy that lives across the street from me. We fought in many, many battles together. Just because he's 83 years old doesn't mean to me that he's lost a step. A person's only currency in the United States Congress is seniority. And so I see no reason in the world why we shouldn't send him back. And I'm very involved, and I talk to the congressman every day, and he's running, he's excited. He's acting like a 23-year-old guy running for the New York State Assembly. As a matter of fact, he was in the New York State Assembly, and I hold the same seat that he sat in.
I have a picture up in my office of Bella Abzug, Basil Patterson, Congressman Rangel, Percy Sutton, and my dad. And I wonder, how has Harlem politics changed, since the glory days of the Gang of Four?
Well, I don't know if it's changed, really. The same issues that were going on back then go on now. They were fighting back then for more jobs, better education, better health care. That's what we're doing now. It hasn't changed an awful lot. You'd have some different groups that are there now, but we still fight for our constituents. We still have the same passion, the same zeal, and the same excitement about working at our jobs, and that's a hell of a picture that you have. And I'd love to see that picture.
I'll show it to you. Assemblyman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Enjoy the evening.
Thank you. Will do. Thank you.
Bye.